Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, we're going to continue our discussion of Qubes OS with the new release of Qubes 4.2.0 being released. And we're going to walk through very briefly what the summary of changes is, and then we're going to talk about the upgrade process. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that we are on Qubes 4.1. So to run the updater, you have to do that. So pull up your Qubes Manager, go under your System and Global Settings, and this will verify you're on 4.1. If you are before that, you're going to want to run the installation through different means. You want to upgrade to 4.1. You might consider just doing a full system wipe. We'll get into some of the upgrade stuff here in a bit. But first, we have an upgrade to Fedora 37. We have Zen upgraded to 4.17. which Zen, I believe, is your boot manager. Uses Zen instead of Grub. We have default Debian template goes to Debian 12. Fedora and Debian templates use XFCE instead of GNOME. This is actually good. I think XFCE uses a lot less system resources, and I hate Nautilus. All right, SE Linux support for Fedora templates. Several GUI applications are rewritten. The applications menu, global settings, create new cube, and cube updates are all updated. We have a unified Grub CFG location for UFAI and legacy boot. Pipewire support, firmware updater for firmware updates. We have automatic clipboard clearing, official packages for Cube Builder version 2. We have split GPG management and global settings, and we have some new policies, methods, but older ones are still usable. And then we have improved keyboard layout switching. There is a full list, more detailed instructions over there, which is their issues. Here's your new tools. Here's your update manager. Of course, the current one is this one here. See a significant improvement. Tells us updates available, last check, and last update. And there are some settings up there. We'll have a look at what's in there. And then we have the new Qubes OS Global Config tool. So this looks way more detailed, and it looks as though it might solve that keyboard mouse issue with this. We did the quick video looking at fixing the keyboard on this. We have various updates, various things. Here's your clipboard policies. Clipboard policies, copying and pasting between clipboards is always it's something you can do inside the menus, but now you have some default settings. Then there's a policy editor tool. So if you want to upgrade, you have to make sure first and foremost, make sure you're on 4.1. Their overall recommendation is to make a backup of your current system, do a fresh install, and then restore your backup onto the 4.2. So that's what they recommend. Of course, if you're on older versions, I'm not doing that specifically here. Mostly I want to test how the Inplace run goes. This isn't a system that I use in full production, but I do use it occasionally. I have done things like the network VPN, which is, I found if I'm on my own internet here, I have to use this to access the Tor network. And there's a few other things that I'd like to just kind of keep in place with this. So we're going to run this just to see how it works. Also walk through how to use the commands. So there is the Inplace commands. We have the qubes-dist-upgrade tool, but it's not just running qubes-dist-upgrade. You have to run some of these options. So the various options inside of this is the update. Stage 1 is just the DOM templates VM and standalone VM. Stage 2, which is a -R, is the release upgrade. Upgrade Qubes release. This goes for 4.2. The dist upgrade is the Qubes 4.2 Fedora 37 repositories. The template standalone upgrade is for just to upgrade the templates and the VMs to the 4.2 repository, and then there's the finalized upgrade. Now, they've also given us all pre-reboot and all post-reboot, which is going to run pre-reboot runs steps 1 through 3. So running all pre-reboot is going to update the system. It's going to give you the release upgrade and the distribution upgrades. And then post-reboot is executing 4 through 6. So this is going to be upgrading your templates, VMs to 4.2 repository, clean up the sites, and then it's going to convert the policies to the new versions of policies. So basically, you're going to want to run these two individual commands. We can always do the -y to make sure you answer yes for all of the questions, and then current USB VM defined, current net VM defined. So these are all individual things that you can assume inside of here. So after installing the tool, so this is already installed, then what we're going to do is we're going to do this to run the full update, and then you can also do the -y to automatically accept all without confirmation. Alternatively, each stage can be run separately using those, and then after completing 1 through 3, you're going to want to restart the system and then run this one. So we're going to run this, reboot the system, and then we're going to run this. So after performing, it's recommended to restart the system one more time, and then you should be on Qubes 1.4. So first step we're going to do is just run this. I've already run this just to double check it. So we're going to run this first, and this is going to pull up this extra window. It's going to check for the current release versions, and this is going to return back to me that it's done because I've already installed that. So now that we've installed that, we're going to run all-pre-reboot. And I keep forgetting I can't just copy and paste because we're on Qubes. Going to give me better typing skills, I guess. Qubes-dist-upgrade. And then we're going to do the all-pre-reboot. Let's double check that. And let's go ahead and give it the yes tag. And make sure you have a backup of all your VMs and data. Okay, that's fine. This one failed shutdown. Other VMs connected to it. Okay. Oh, failed with network errors. Okay, so that is actually because my my network VPN is running the... let's go ahead and shut that down. So if you happen to have a weird network running, weird network VM running, go ahead and shut that down. So that's my network VPN. So we're going to go ahead and shut this down. That's going to shut down the Unix system. So yes, we're going to shut down the Unix system as well. I don't need the Tor network for what I'm doing right now anyway. Okay, so that has shut down. Let's go ahead and run that again. There you go. Now it's actually doing what it should be doing. So we're still running here. We're on phase 2, and it took about an hour or so to get here, maybe a little longer. There are a lot of issues primarily relating to that network VPN. Now, what we should have done is there is a keep running tag that you can use to prevent it from shutting one down. So you'll see I actually used it when I'm running the current command right now, which is the sudo dist-upgrade r keep running network VPN. Now, this is a problem because in my situation, my ISP blocks access to Tor. Since my ISP blocks access to Tor, then what happened is if I set my sysunix back, let me go over here. If I look at my sysunix, NetVM is currently at network VPN. So this is what I have to have working to bypass my ISP to allow Unix to get onto the Tor network because my ISP is blocking it. The problem is network VPN doesn't show up and there's no place to say, hey, this is a critical one. So it always wants to shut itself down. But since Unix is using it, it fails to shut down and the script simply stops working. That is problematic. And so to do this, I actually ran it a few times and I tried to get by with the, I'd start it and then I'd start the network VPN. That allowed me to get through the Unix workstation and the Unix network station. That allowed me to get all these in, but then we ran into an issue with the standalone upgrade. Standalone upgrade, which was Peppermint. There is a tag for that as well. So if you are running, if you do have standalone VMs in here, you want to put in the tag to skip those, which is just --skip -standalone -upgrade. And that's going to just, stop, don't upgrade that because it shut that down. Now, in my case, that was just that peppermint build. I don't use it for anything. It was just there for a video to show how to do that. So in my case, I said, well, we're just going to delete that. Solves the problem there. All right. And so I went back through, tried to run it again, and then it had issues again shutting down that network VPN. So now what we're doing is I'm running through the process step for step for step. So we just did the release upgrade. So now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to hit that keep running there on that network VPN. And we're going to go to phase 3, which is going to be the distribution upgrade. Hopefully we don't have any issues here. And so make sure you've made a backup. Yes, we're going to proceed. And basically that was the thing, is you have to use that keep running if you have to have that, like that separate VM running to prevent issues. Because what happened if I shut down the network VPN, then syshunix can't check updates in the Unix system and the whole system came crashing down. So that is one of the steps I had to do that maybe it's not going to be something for everybody, but if your ISP blocks the Tor network and you need to run this network VPN to get onto the Tor network, that's exactly what you have to do. You have to run that. It's -- keep running and then give it a space, keep -running, give it a space, and then give it the full name, which is case sensitive. So you'll see how I ran that command there. Sudo qubes-dist-upgrade -s, which is doing the distribution upgrade, space -- keep -running, space network -VPN, which is the exact case sensitive name of the network. Now it appears to be letting me go through. So we're going to, barring any other issues, we're going to turn off the video and come back at the next step, which our next step is going to be, so 1 through 3 covers, pre-reboot covers phases 1 through 3, which is, I'm doing 3 now. So now we're going to reboot the system, and then we're going to run all post-reboot, and then I'm going to do all run post-reboot, and then we're going to do the network VPN, keep running on that time around. So hopefully we will have everything set up by then. With that, we'll come back as soon as this is set and going. All right, so we're back after the upgrade, and I ran the commands for all post-reboot, and then I kept the keep running network VPN to make sure that my VPN stayed attached in case you need to do any updates to the Unix. The first big thing that I noticed is that it did not, while it rolled up DOM's versions, it did not actually roll up any of the template versions. That is something why you might consider the to do with a fresh install if you can. So you notice here Fedora 34 and Debian 11 are still in here, despite the documentation saying that those have been rolled up. Now, if we check over here under our cubes updater, you'll see the following cubes are based on distributions no longer supported. So in here, this is a, I don't know if this is new or if this is just something I've never found before, but this is actually the list of other available cubes you can install. So here's a Gen 2 minimum. Here's Unix Gateways 17 up from 16. And we have, here's Fedora 34, which is giving us when the build is. You'll see that the last build was in January. Here's upgradable Debian 11. And here's upgradable Unix. So these guys here, these ones are apparently upgradable. And the I'll have to see exactly how I can do that. Let's see, can I upgrade that? Let's apply that and see what happens. I don't know if that's just going to update, or if this is going to do a full upgrade to Debian 12. I don't know what this is going to do. You'll see that it's going to download, it looks like 1.4 gigs of data. So this might take a while to do. I might have to come back and reboot the video. But you'll see we have, this is also upgradable. And let's see if we come up. Oh, I can't actually, I have lost control of the template manager screen while this is doing the update. But we have Fedora 39, we have Fedora 39 XFCE. My guess is that this is the GNOME and this is the GNOME XFCE. Well, that's doing its thing, and I don't know how long. That's 10% done. Who knows? It might be finished by the time we finish up here. The Cubes Manager, of course, looks very similar to how it is. The global configuration, of course, is the big one that has changed. There is a lot more settings and options inside of here. So here is our general settings. I don't know what this OK, cancel, or applies about. Let's go ahead and pull that back up. No idea what that OK, apply, or cancel was for there. All right, we'll go ahead and pull it back up, though. So here is here's your clock cube is your system net, your net cube is your firewall, your default template. So this, you can choose what your default is. And then default disposable template, again, you can choose which one that happens to be. They do have the full screen here, and I don't know if this is a change that obviously we have done when we were experimenting with a Peppermint. It still did not allow full screen. I don't know if it will allow it or not, and we're not going to give it a test right now. You can see we're on Linux kernel 6.162 FC37. Here's our USB devices. You can see that our keyboard is set to enable instead of always ask. And that could be because I made that manual policy change, and it might be something that they did by default, because if you're doing a basic modern computer, does anybody use PS2 mice anymore? Does such a thing exist? And so you need to make sure you have a keyboard when you plug it in. And so that certainly is something to consider. Mouse is set to always ask, and then there is now the option for the touchscreen. So in theory, you can go in here and make these changes and adjustments. U2F Cubes U2F proxy allows you to use universal second factor two-factor authentication without exposing the whole device and all part of it. So I guess you have that as an option, which I would have to enable it inside of a USB cube. I'm not sure why we don't have, let's see. I don't know why I can't make any changes in there. In order to use it, template must have U2F package installed. So I would have to go into my cube, into my sys USB cube. I'd have to go on into there and install that package. And then this is going to enable me to pull this down and enable that. Updates over here. This will determine where updates are carried through. So I can run the updates through the sys firewall, which is the default. I could run it through the network, or I could run them on Tor if I needed to. And then we can enable stable updates only. We can do security-related testing updates or all testing updates. These are all new features, all new options. Check for cube updates. We can enable and disable checking. And then update proxies. Your split GPG screen. So I have this disabled. We can enable them if we need to do that. Here's your keyboard. So copy. So Control-Shift-C is going to copy, and paste is Control-Shift-V. And then the default policy allows any cube to copy paste into any other cube except DOM. So you can go from cube to cube, or you can set a specific policy. You can say, we're going to set one specific cube, and then you can set so you could set which one will always accept a copy or which one will always accept a paste. So you can go ahead and do those. I don't know what this is here. 30 cubic salt. It says that policy has changed, which I do not know what would have changed that policy. It might just be something on the old build. But it is telling us that there is something in there. And then here's URL handling. And then here's information about the device. So AMD Ryzen 5. We can see we have 14 gigs of RAM available. I think I have a gig and a half or so going towards memory. Then we have our Cubes version. We have our BIOS, our kernel, and our Zen is unknown. We have TPM is not found on the device, and USB keyboards is the insecure policy, and that relates to the enable, always enabling it. So that's what we are finding. All right. So that is what we have. Now the menus are completely changed inside of here. And I find that sometimes the keyboards aren't working quite right. So I don't know what the situation is there, but pushing up or down on the keyboard stuff isn't working. And, you know, the meta key is not tied in either. So, okay, there you go. It's working now. So here we have the apps is just your basic app cubes. So the bold one in personal indicates a cube that is running, and then the other ones are all available. So we have our work, we have our STL, and then our templates. These are what our cubes are based on, and then we have our services. So our network VPN, we have our sys firewall, sysnet, sysUSB, and sysunix. So we have all those options there. So this is much more organized, easier to find things. This box here will take you to those. This is your favorites. There's nothing in it. Presumably, I could add something to favorites. Let's go ahead and give that a try. So there's that. Let's do that, and let's see if these populate. So there you go. So it tells us what the cube is from, and it tells us what the application is. Your main system settings are over here. We have our main system settings under this panel. Here's other settings. And then these are our cubes tools. So your backup cubes, your create a new cube, create cubes VMs, cube manager, global configuration. Here's your policy editor. Let's pull that up. So here's your various policy editor there. And then we have, let's see what else we have. Here's your template manager, template switcher, cubes update, and backup restore. So let's look at the template switcher. All right. So this guy here, if we wanted to change this from Debian 11 to Fedora, I can go ahead and make those changes there. And these ones are running, so I can't make any changes to those. And then these, I can basically choose which one they are based on. So select all changes, so we can do multiple selects and then change them all to given things. So that's a nice new option. And then we also have, let's see what we have here. This is that template manager that's currently running the update. So you can see it is actually finished downloaded. So now it's installing template Debian 11. And this is an upgradable, so I'm not sure exactly if this is upgrading from Debian 11 to a newer version, which should have been done in the original upgrade, or if this is actually upgrading it to the currently available Debian 12. So we'll have to work with that. So your in-place upgrade does indeed work, but it's not changing any of those default templates. So it's going to be a little bit of work to make some of these changes, and then once I do that, we're just going to install the templates. We're going to take off the older ones, and then we will be able to see if we can just hot switch them. So it looks like there is that extra step of needing to manually do all of your template managers. It does look like I can run a second instance of this over here. So we'll get a chance to see what's up here. So these are your ones installed. We can do an Arch Linux now. So if you are interested in running a cube in Arch, you have that as an option. We have a CentOS Stream. We have Debian 11 and Debian 12 Minimal. We have Debian 12 XFCE, Debian 12. Presumably this is your GNOME version. So if you remember, the updates to this is going to change the default from being a GNOME-based to an XFCE-based. I tend to support that. Then we have the same with Fedora 37 Minimal, XFCE. And then this one's presumably GNOME. And then here we have a 38. Now, you'll notice that this one is still under testing. So we have to be careful about the testing ones. This one looks okay, but the XFCE might be testing. So if you do want to run the XFCE under stable, you're probably going to want to run Fedora 37, not 38. Although you can do some testing with Fedora 39. Here's a Gen 2 Minimal. And then we can do the Unix gateways there as well. So that is the options that we have. We're just going to go ahead and let this finish its thing. And then I think what we'll do is we'll do a separate video about how I made this work. And maybe I'll experiment with it to get one of them working. And then I'll show you the second one on the upgrade. And then by then we will have a full upgrade, and then we'll have the ability to roll up the templates to the newer versions. And then we might have to, if we've installed any extra software, we're going to have to install those onto the templates as well. And so we'll just kind of talk about those different things, installing the software like we did on the previous videos. So we'll wrap this one up here. Inplace upgrade did seem to work. I still have a bootable system. That's good. And everything else seems to be functioning. We just need to get those templates up to date from now. So thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching this video from Switched-to-Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.